Ronin Man here. Happy Sunday. Okay, I got a article here from the New York Magazine. Very interesting article. And there's a lot in this one, a lot packed in here. I'll try to go as quickly as I can and give you the information. All right. So women are now cheating as much as men, but with fewer consequences. And the subtitle is Beta Male. Okay, so you can kind of see how this woman, Elisa Giancobe, is looking at things. And this is kind of the standard, I would say, opinion these days, is that women are cheating on men, and that's some kind of victory. Okay, so we got a kind of it's definitely, we're not, just to give you an idea, if this was a negative article, like women are doing something wrong, we got to fix this, then you would have a picture of children crying or something, right? But instead you have a woman turned on and a guy and a scene from a famous movie, right? So definitely, as I always say when I review articles, look at the picture they chose, because that tells you they choose that. Okay, just like I choose a thumbnail. I'm telling you part of the story with the picture. So there's definitely a sense of things are good. Women are getting sex. The women are doing what they want. Equality has arrived. Okay, so let's go through this article. For you guys that are driving, I'll read quite a bit of this. Rebecca, mother of two in a quiet New England town, must first clarify. I myself have not had an affair. I'll tell you right off the bat, a woman's not going to say she had an affair. She will talk about other people, but not about herself. So can't say she is, can't say she isn't, but when somebody says this, it is always interesting. Not that she's necessarily having an affair, but she might be thinking about it, right? So anyway, many days she feels like she's the only one. She hasn't had an affair. Geez. In the past few years, 3 of Rebecca's close friends, how many do you have? Not many, have ended their marriages following 1 or 2 year-long affairs with other men. All were working and traveling. All had younger kids. Okay, that's key. So young kids, let's say young kids, usually when they talk about young kids, they're talking about 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so let's say 4. Let's just go with a conservative number. 4 years old. And let's say 5 years of marriage. Okay, so that's pretty standard. 1 year. Kid, they get pregnant a year later. A lot of times it's faster, but we're just going on the conservative side because I don't want to be hyperbolic or exaggerate. I was going to say standard. So 5 years old, let's say, the oldest kid. So that means, 4 years old. So that means that they're 5 years married. So that means they had an affair 1 or 2 years, 3 or 4 years into the marriage. So the old days, 7-year itch, this and that is gone with the wayside. We're talking about cheating right off the bat, like basically, like right after pregnancy and birth, essentially. So this is a very damning article because really for marriage, for men in general, it is just not good. The news is definitely not good. Now, I would say I have a very good take on this, so I'm not too worried about it, but definitely there is a sense of victory here. Two left home, primary giving up volunteer. Primary custody of their exes. That one is cap, I think. I don't believe that one. I've never in my entire life known a woman to give up primary custody to their husband, ex-husband. I've never seen it, ever. Not one friend, not one girl. I've never seen a woman give up custody. The only thing I've seen, I know a very good friend of mine, his, was it not his brother's wife, but his brother's, I guess his uncle's wife, she took off and went to Miami to make porn, and then she came back. But I've never known a woman to give up custody, unless they're drug addicts. I've seen that where they're not giving up the custody, but they're not capable, right? So that one I think is capped. That's what I don't like when they don't use names. It's because, who is this? Who are you? She's telling us the information without getting anybody in trouble. And that's classic female behavior. But hey, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Be grateful, because this is telling you some very valuable information. All right, so we've seen this in a small group of friends. we've seen this happen 3 times. The crazy part is not the epidemic of adultery, but it's that the women who seem to be fueling it. Okay? It's another milestone in the march to equality. Men and women are taking an equal opportunity approach to marital hanky-panky. Okay, this is, equal opportunity. Are we talking about men having affairs in the first year or 2 or 3? I don't know. I mean, it's one thing to talk about, affairs, but affairs when the kids are tiny, like right off the bat, I don't know. There's no data here, so I don't have the data from Kinsey, so I can't say for sure, but I don't know, man. The guys I know that cheat, it's usually when things get boring. So after, let's say, 10 years is more common. It's very uncommon to cheat right off the bat. Like right after the fucking kid's born, just start cheating right there. I don't think so. I really think that's, and again, data is not, this type of data does not make people look good, so you're not going to see it, right? They're not going to keep track. Anyway, we know these women are cheating right after the kid's born. Okay, and breaking up the family. Okay, now we know what that does to kids. We know this is not equality any more than abortion is helping the child, right? It is a terrible thing for children, and it has always been seen when men do it as a terrible thing. But when women do it, it's seen as empowering. When they break the family up, leave small kids without a family, without a mother. She's saying that without the mother. She's saying the mothers are leaving, giving primary custody. So now, again, I think she's capping, but think about the logic of this article. She's saying that, woohoo, women are breaking up the family, depriving children of their mother. And that's equality. Hey, we're here now. Awesome. Hanky-panky. See, in other words, they use these words, hanky-panky, cheating, infidelity. There's a lot of words you can use, and each one tells a story, right? Hanky-panky. Hey, it's all fun and games. All right. So Kinsey University found that women cheat same rate as men. Again, that is, depends on, women are cheating the same rate. Okay. Are we talking about the same ages? I don't know. I get the feeling that men have cheated always the same. Okay. High value men. And that women are now cheating right off the fucking bat. like just basically breaking up the family, leaving the kids with either no father, which is more likely, taking the father away. That's what women do in child custody. This is such cap here. It's so funny how they can just put this in an article, just because she says, quote unquote, her 3 friends, oh, okay, we're supposed to believe that. Hey, I'm not saying it's not possible, but look around you. Think with your brain. Think. How many women give up custody just voluntarily? Like, why? Who does that? I've never heard of it. Total cap. Okay. They're trying to make it look like, hey, we cheated, but we're giving you the kids. So, hey, it's all good. But I don't see that. I've never seen that. All right. National Opinion Research Center, 2013 study. Now, again, these are old. 2016 article, Kinsey report, who knows when that was, before 2000, probably 2013, let's say. So we're talking 10 years ago. So I'm guessing that the cheating has gone up. Yeah? Because if you look at it, it's a upward curve. Women are cheating more and more and more, right? They caught up with men in the Kinsey report. So let's say 2013, almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago. So very, very likely it's much higher now, right? Because we certainly haven't heard that women are cheating less. So, sometimes you have to go on logic, and you just got to, kind of say, okay, I think, right? The incidence of cheating is exploding for women. Okay. So, here we go. Found that while the percentage of men who admitted to infidelity has held constant over the last 2 decades. So men are not cheating anymore, any less. Same. Percentage of wives reported having affairs rose almost 40% in the 2 decades before 2013 survey. So that means, let's see, 2003, 1993. So starting in 1993 until 2013, women had affairs 40% more. Okay. All right. And what's the reason for the shift? Okay. Women are working outside the home, the internet. All right. Economics. Now, I think this is the key one. And I think the men should really understand this one. Don't let your emotions get away when you see this. You want to keep yourself cool and you want to make smart decisions. So what's going on here? As women increasingly feel the role of breadwinners, they no longer need men the way they used to feel. They used to and feel freer to take chances they might otherwise not. Okay, so what? Now, again, she's not saying her friends were breadwinners. This is just her, ditzy woman theories, right? She's just like theorizing. This is like everybody's a social, like she's just putting this in here. There's no data here. Her friends are not breadwinners. Otherwise, she would say it. She said 2 out of 3 cheated right off the bat after the kids were born, basically. She didn't say this about her friends. So again, this is another meaningless thing. Now, the meaningful part, okay, is that women is economics. That part I say 100%. Women are making money. Now, how does that affect cheating? Okay, now here's the part that I'm bringing in my own unique perspective. Okay, if you look at studies of happiness and money, they're very interesting. And I think they can explain what's going on here. Okay, so when somebody makes, doesn't matter, individual, single person, man or woman, $100,000, okay, they get 70%, okay, happiness, okay? So out of 100%, you're completely happy with everything in your life, and 70%. And 70% is huge because 70% is the number that people, it's basically it's the figure where you don't worry anymore. Like you're not worried about paying the bills. You're not worried about, you know what I mean? You're not worried about your car breaking down. You're not worried about your computer. You're not worried, oh, what if the economy goes down? You're making $100,000. You're saving $100,000. It's kind of a magic number. And I would say for men, you should think about that, because once you make $100,000, if you stay single and avoid these cheating individuals, you're basically done. That's basically all you need to be happy. Now, the step 2, so you get 70% happiness with 100,000. Okay. Now, when you have the next figure, they checked, so 200,000, 300,000, same amount of happiness, 70%. And it wasn't until people had $10 million. So it went from income to, capital. So when they had $10 million, that was when the happiness jumped to 80%. So 70%, you're going to get 70% of possible happiness with $100,000. That's all you got to make. If you save $10 million, you're going to go up to 80%. And people with $1 billion or more, they go up to 90%. So the studies of happiness are interesting because you don't need that much money to be happy. Free of worry, basically free of worry. Basically, you're not stressing out. Your heart's not constricting. You're not, you know what I mean? You're not losing your mind. You're basically like, hey, things are okay. Of course you want more. Of course everybody wants more. But that's always going to be there, no matter, even if you're a billionaire. But $100,000, that's a good number. As long as you're going to stay MGTOW, never going to get married, $100,000 is basically all you need. Okay, so how does that relate to this? Why am I saying that? The reason why is because I believe, and if you look at the happiness thing, the minute that women got jobs outside the house, they started to no longer need men. And it wasn't their fault. I don't believe that women in the 70s knew, and this is very common for humans, we are very poor, and I am, all humans, very poor at predicting how we're going to feel when something happens. Okay, so we think when I get that car, I'm going to be extremely happy. But when they do a survey of when you got the car and a month later and a year later, it's very surprising. We're very poor at predicting how we're going to feel. So I don't think that I think that the women's movement, I think what they were thinking is this. Here's what they were thinking in the 70s is women do not want to be dependent. Okay? And I can understand that. People don't like to be independent. It's a bad feeling. You know, when you're dependent on other people. You know, when you're a child and then you grow up, you're 17, you can't wait to get your independence. If you ever have trouble with the law, people in prison, people in jail, it's the worst thing is not having, they are dependent and waiting, for money or whatever, food, freedom, they're waiting, right? They're stuck. And people don't like being dependent. Children, they're waiting for that fucking, allowance from their parents. They don't like that. Kids like, and I loved when I was a kid, to make my own money, have my own money, and have my own freedom. I can decide where I'm going to go, when I'm going to go, and all that. Okay, so when women started the movement, and it's very understandable. I think you should understand this, guys. Women didn't know how they're going to feel. They predicted, and I think it's pretty fair prediction, that, okay, I don't want to be dependent on a man, right? Because there are bad men, of course, and bad women. If you're dependent on anybody, whenever you're in jail, for example, if you have a nice jailer, you're going to be fine. But if you have an evil one, right, things can be pretty rough in prison, right? I just watched, I don't know, I don't watch movies, but somebody was watching a movie about prison and the guy escaped, and it was like, finally freedom, and I was like, yeah, because he had an evil jailer, right? So nobody likes dependence. Fuck dependence, right? So women said, hey, us too. We don't want to be dependent. And they said, here's what women thought, is we just want enough money that we're not dependent. We don't want to be slaves. We don't want to be at the beck and call. We just want to make enough money that we can walk away. The problem is this, and here's the thing, is again, I'm not saying there's a solution. I am not saying I have a solution. I'm just saying what happened and the result and I'm trying to do it very honestly. So what happened was this. Why are women cheating? Is because women no longer need men. In the old days, for better or worse, women needed men. Okay? In the 70s, a woman without a husband, she was pretty fucked. It was pretty tough. Go back 60s, 50s. It was not easy for a single woman. Like a single mother. Whoo, times were tough, man. And they didn't want that. Because if the guy, left her, she was on her own, cheated, died of alcoholism, whatever, got arrested, then all of a sudden she was on her own. She was vulnerable. So women thought, hey, don't want that, and I'm sure women were thinking at the time, of course I love men. I want a man, but I don't want to be dependent. Okay. And you hear women today, if you watch any of the MGTOW channels where there's women on there, they'll say that. They'll say, hey, look, I don't want to be dependent, but I want a man, right? And if you watch Just Pearly Things or, Fresh and Fit, the women are always going to say that. The problem is there's been no recognition of what happened and what that meant. Not saying anything would change. I'm just saying recognition of what happened, because as soon as women did not need men, women were with men because they needed them. And if you look back further, let's talk about dependencies, okay? What they are and historically and even now. They don't sound good. They sound terrible. That's the problem with this. If you say, hey, women should be dependent on their husbands, people are going to be like, fuck that, right? Even guys, right? Everyone's going to say, no, that's not good. No, that's not good. They should have, some freedom, right? And okay, fine, right? But let's look at it more in depth. Marriage in 1800s. Men were farmers pre-industrial age. There was no cars, there was nothing, there was no machines. Basically, farming, right? You had farming, cowboys. Most people had a farm, some chickens, and things like that. Now, in this, animals don't take weekends. They don't have holidays. They got to eat. They got to be taken care of. They get sick. There's a lot of work to be a farmer. If you've ever been on a farm, especially an organic farm, you're shocked how much work it is. It is. Whenever I stay with Andy, I'm always reminded how tough life used to be. Life is tough. Life is tough when you don't have the, you know what I mean? When you're farming, don't have the amenities in a small farm. Whew. So men worked from early morning, basically sunrise to sunset. Now men needed a woman. Why? For food. No McDonald's, no Whole Foods, no Alibaba, no Amazon. They had to eat healthy food, to be healthy, they needed food made for them. And that means a woman back then. They're out in the middle of nowhere, woman's cooking, guy's healthy, everything's good. Number one, need. Okay. Women don't need men, and men don't really need a wife anymore either. Only thing men need women for is babies. They might want women for sex and companionship and stuff, but need is another thing. Only if they want, their children, right? But so men needed women, okay, and it was reciprocal because women needed men. Women needed the house. They needed the protection. There was basically no police. Okay, 1800s in the plains, there was no police. There was no justice. It was the man. Wildcat came along, coyotes, wolves, whatever the fuck was going on, snakes. The man came out, the man protected her. And the woman needed that. Women needed men. They needed men for a place to stay. They needed men for food. They needed men for protection. And generally, women are very social. So companionship was important and still is important for women. So there's, and also women wanted children and men wanted children. Men wanted children. Why? Let's not be romantic. They wanted them to work in the field. Farmers wanted kids to work in the field. Women wanted to have kids. It was the one of the highest values of society. And a woman without children had really low value socially. So women wanted to have kids, both for social status, and also I think it was understood that was one of the standard things that women need to do, Now, whether it's true or not, that was a belief back then. So women had children. And of course, both of them got their sexual desires filled. So there was a need for men and women. Now, that's no longer true. Men can work in the field and they can go to Whole Foods if they want healthy food, right? They can get good food, good, healthy food, no problem. Men do not need women. But women don't need men. Now, that is new because this is brand new. This is fucking brand new. We're talking the 70s here. Is that women? And so why? What is the result of breaking up the dependency that women had on men? Is that women don't need men. And so they don't value, and they shouldn't. There's no reason for them to value marriage. Of course, women like weddings, right? Weddings are fun, fancy, pictures, star of the show, very elegant. All your friends are there. It's a great reunion. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really, women love this stuff, right? Everybody knows that. The wedding's for the woman, right? So women like weddings, but they don't want to be married. And why? What changed? A lot of guys will say, oh, modern women are not the same quality and this and that. No. What changed was they don't need men. Because once they got the money, okay, the salary, and again, you don't need much money to be basically happy. You're always going to complain. You're always going to want more. But there's a certain amount, humans, the stress, you know what I mean? The heart constrictions, the feelings that you have when if anybody has been really poor, where you're just worried about getting your next meal and what's going to happen to you, that kind of terror is not there, right? So women don't suddenly, the idea is I don't want to be dependent. But what happened was, inside a female brain was like, I no longer need this guy. Because women needed a man. They needed a man. And all of a sudden women were like, wait, I don't need a man anymore, you know? Like, even if I don't have a man, there's going to be police. Society's going to be taking care of the sewers. Like, I don't need it. I can have a man, but I don't need it. Now, let's look at dependencies in general. I want to talk about this because I think it's important. I just want to do a little kind of a defense of dependencies. Okay, children are dependent on their parents. If we portrayed women's dependence in marriage the same way, if we portrayed children's dependence on mothers, we would make mothers into demons. Because we'd say, hey, they're just dangling the food in front of these kids. If they don't give the kids food, the kids will die. They need the food. And there's been proof, there's studies. Unfortunately, there were studies where children didn't get any love and attention, and they died in foster homes. And I think it was in Romania. They actually tested it. A child was never told they were good, never any attention. It was like a mother was like a steel wire structure. There was no love given. They wanted to see what would happen. And the children actually didn't survive. So children, they need love, attention, mirroring. There's so many things their developing brains need. They're in total dependence on their parents, on their mothers. Now, mothers love that. A child is completely dependent. And I remember when many years ago, I was talking to a guy. I said, do you have kids? And we were traveling to Vietnam, and he goes, no, man. He goes, I don't want to do the God thing. And I was like, whoa, the God thing. Yeah. Children look at their parents like God. And let's face it, people get off on that. It's like, you can do no wrong. The child follows you everywhere. You can't even go to the bathroom. And there is a pleasure in that. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just humans are into it. That kind of needing, that person needs me. They're at my beck and call. and no doubt about it. Women love it. You see it, But when they're the dependent ones, it's suddenly oppression. Right? It's very oppressive. Now, if children no longer needed parents, and let's do another one. Let's talk about dogs, dependents, dogs. I've thought about this for years. Is it, women lost the dependence on men, right? And dogs are utterly dependent on their parent. They're humans. If that human just dies or just disappears, missing persons, and they don't have any friends, that dog is going to die a terrible death, alone in the house. And very quickly too, because he'll run out of water, he'll run out of food. Dogs are absolutely desperately dependent on their masters. To feed them, to clothe them, not to clothe them, but to keep them warm, to keep them healthy, to give them food and water. And it's kind of pathetic when you think about it. The dog is absolutely dependent. But the funny thing about it is, and this is what I said, like a kind of a defense of dependence. Many people, I don't know how you feel about dogs, but I love dogs. And it gets to a point where you kind of love the dog so much, you'll almost do anything for the dog. You ever gotten like that with a dog? Dogs are amazing. So how does that work? The dog is totally dependent. So if we look at it through the eyes of let's say, the women's movement, you're basically the most evil dictator because you have this dependent thing on you, right? You're enjoying that, this toying with this dog, right? But what actually happens? Okay, the dog is dependent, and some people make jokes about it. He only likes me because I give him food, right? Whatever. But in reality, you love the dog. You know it. And actually, they found the dogs, people are even closer to their dogs than their own children and the family members. I mean, dogs have a very special place in people's hearts. And yet, utterly, pathetically dependent. How does that work? How can a dependence be one of the most beautiful things in life? The reason is, I think, is because Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The first thing we need is food and water, okay? And the next thing we need is companionship, affection, right? And I don't remember the words he uses, but basically there's higher level needs, right? And eventually there's self-actualizations. But that camaraderie and that, the dog's always there. Like no matter what happens, you lose your job, dog doesn't care. Dog's like, loves you just as much. Just as much. You get cancer, dog loves you just as much. It's a beautiful thing, but it's a dependent thing. It would be easy for people to say, hey, that's evil. That's on the level of a terrible person because you enjoy dependence, right? You're dangling the dog's life every day in front of you. By this logic, there should be no pets at all because it's so terrible. And dependence on other people, oh my God, how terrible, how terrible. And again, I don't have an answer. I'm not saying women should be dependent. I'm not saying that. I'm actually saying that it's hopeless. That women are very happy the way it is and will not change. Women are only going to cheat more. And the only reason is because they need men less and less. They don't need them for any of the traditional things. And a lot of these channels, they'll say, oh yeah, you need men to do the oil and you need men to do the electricity and you need men to pave the roads. And the girls will kind of grudgingly admit it, but it's not really true. Because those things are going to get fixed by somebody anyway. You know what I mean? Regardless of what she does, the men are going to take these jobs. Even if women don't marry men at all, they're still going to do it. They're going to get jobs and they're going to work and they're going to fix the fucking electricity. So women really don't need men. Now, I think that men have not really understood what's happened. Is what happens when you don't care anymore? You take risks. Okay, I remember when I was making a lot of money in 1999 in the stock market. Okay, it was the internet bubble. I remember every day I'd wake up, I'm like $6,000 profit every day. I remember a period where I was like 6,000, 8,000, 4,000. I was like, woohoo, And I was I remember I was making good money, but I remember thinking fuck, I'm making way more money from my investments than my job. And I suddenly didn't care. I remember I was on the internet one day, boss came in. I was like, yeah. I didn't say it, but I was thinking fire me. I'm making $6,000 a day. Whatever, And now of course it ended and everything. But what I'm saying is when your needs are filled, your mind will change. Okay. It's not women's fault. It's not your fault. When you suddenly, if you, let's say, come to Asia, and I'll, like I said, inoculate you. The next summit, we're going to talk about being an expat and how you can get the inoculation against Western women. Once you see sweet girls by the millions, okay, that are skinny, and you'll realize that you can't go back to kissing ass in America because it's a wasteland. It's a desert here, for pretty young, pure, skinny girls. It just doesn't exist. So when you see that, so if you're here, you're going to need, when you need sex, okay, you're going to need a woman. And that's what you see a lot of blue pill guys, is they need women. But once you see that you don't need women, that's what I really want at the next summit. I want to show you that you don't need women. You don't need the women here. You have plenty of options and you can live here, have your job, live in Europe, wherever you are, live in Japan, but you can go get your needs met, do your thing, or you can move overseas and you don't need the women. You just suddenly don't need them the same way you used to need them. Just like the women in the 70s. you'll suddenly realize it's like, whew, you'll just change your mind. You'll be like, oh, I see, I could kiss ass to this large individual, but I don't think I will because, yeah, I'll just go on vacation. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? It'll work out, right? So need and want, very important. Okay, so basically, breadwinning women. Now that basically means women making money, is what I'm saying. Women with a salary. Neutralize their gender deviance and keep potentially strained relationships intact. So what that means is they will stay with you, but the marriage means nothing. Okay, so it's kind of like a restaurant's open, but there's no food. A school, you keep the school building, but there's no children. Okay, so gutting the relationship totally, just leaving all love and affection going to other men, and nothing there, and not caring about the marriage. And the reason is because don't need it. You just don't need it. So just like me, just like you, once you don't need something, everything changes. Okay. Another recent study found some women are genetically predisposed to extra pair bonding, euphemistically speaking. So basically, women can bond with several guys. Men don't have this gene. Now, again, this is pretty awesome because what gene is that? Like, if there is a gene and it's been proven to be connected to pair bonding, and like, why don't they mention the gene? You know, I think this is one more of these like research articles she's reading that's basically she doesn't know how to analyze research and science. Just kind of randomly read something. Oh, there's a science article about science, and they're saying there's a gene, you know. So it's not just cheating women, it's a gene. So you can't change genes, right? But men don't have that, so basically women can cheat all they want. It's fine, right? And that's fine. That's fine. We're going to see later on in this article. Everything's totally fine. Okay, the prevailing theories that modern marriage is what's killing marriage, blah, blah, blah. Women are motivated to make a move. The gender gap in adultery is closing. Women are more aware. Okay, the alternatives and happiness. Back to happiness. Fewer women are marrying out of need. They're marrying to please themselves, right? We know this. We've seen this. And again, feelings change. They're also dissatisfied, easily dissatisfied, and they feel justified to go elsewhere. So not just satisfied, but justified. I think that's a key thing. Men never felt justified with cheating. If I can tell you this is just firsthand account, my own experience, but men whose women took care of them, cooked for them, screwed their brains out, raised their children, men never talked about cheating on them without admitting they were wrong. Just my own personal experience. But they'd be like, God, she's like so good to me. Like you'd see guys just twisted. They'd be like, like I'm an idiot. I'm such an asshole. Like I couldn't stop myself. I was drunk. You know, this is what guys, I think women totally don't know this. Well, naturally, they're not men. They don't know what men went through back then. Men would be killing themselves when they cheated. I remember my friends would be killing themselves. They would still cheat, but it was difficult. Like for men were like, they felt really bad, like really super guilty. But here we find the opposite is basically not caring. They feel justified. That is a essential thing, is that not only does marriage mean nothing, once women have a basic income, not only does it mean nothing, but they'll cheat and don't even care. Don't even care if you find out. And on top of that, feel justified. Feel like, hey, I am justified in this. Just like you might see, let's say, an elderly person get hit by a car, and you might be, let's say, right there, and you might break a window of a car, hot wire it, take him to the hospital, and you say, hey, I was justified. I was trying to fucking help this old lady. There was no cell connection. I didn't have a car. Justified means there's a very good reason for it. You're doing a greater good in the service, right? But here, there's no greater good. And women are whitewashing the fact that men never felt justified in cheating. Never. The only time men felt justified, in my experience, and you can search your own heart and your own experience with your friends, was when women were not having sex with them. That was a big thing. And I still think, and in fact, most divorce courts around the world, outside of the kind of brainwashed Western world, they consider not having sex like grounds for divorce. Because that's it. There's nothing there. There's no relationship. There's no, so when one person or the other does not give physical affection, that's grounds for divorce, and also lenient. It's not like, oh, that's grounds for divorce now. Give her your house. It's not like, hey, you didn't get it. Like, let's work something out so that you've already been screwed, right? You've already been fucked over. This was not fair. You've been mistreated. You've been treated inhumanely. So we're going to make it, you know what I mean? And the other person did it. So let's make it a little easy on you, right? But no, justified. That's a key. Women not only cheat, not only don't care about marriage at all anymore, but they're justified. They feel justified. So this is the same as a criminal. This is exactly what I talked about before. This is a criminal mind. This is the end result of the women's movement, is that women have developed by a series of brainwashing, I believe, and not telling the truth about men were twisted when they cheated. I'm serious. Men were twisted up. It was not justified. They would go to the priest and make like, what's that called? When you go to the priest and you admit your sins and stuff. Oh man. I remember guys like talking to me and it was like, oh, it's tough. The only time men felt justified is when they didn't get sex, or if she was cheating or something like that, But men did not feel justified, and never, society never gave them that. But we're talking in a major magazine here. They're just giving women the green light is break up the family. We already know what that does to kids, increased chances of teen pregnancy, in being involved in crime, drug addiction, overdose death. What else? Being a victim of a violent accident, violent incident, going to prison. Those are all things that happen. They skyrocket when a marriage is broken up. So we're saying, hey, no problem. Kids, whatever the fuck, doesn't matter. All that matters is that the woman now feels that she doesn't need a man. So, hey, she can do whatever she wants. And she's going to backwards rationalize. Kind of like, even if the guy didn't cheat on her. In the old days, they did. So I will cheat on him. And I'm justified. That's exactly the criminal mind. I mean, prove me wrong. That's the criminal mind. If you go to jail and interview people, or watch on YouTube any interview of people in jail, what they will say is, I robbed the guy, but he'll never do that again. He was so stupid. He didn't lock the door. He didn't, have this protection. And eventually I helped him out, because I'm sure now the guy's smarter, and he's cleaned his act up, and he's not going to get robbed again. So it was kind of destined to happen. Someone was going to do it. And, I hope hope he's okay, gets over, whatever violence happened. Really, that's criminals. They never will say everything in my life is wrong. I am completely wrong. That guy, it's because that's in the rare case of rehabilitation. But the criminal mind is always looking at it justified. And they'll say, but, the guy had ripped me off before. Or, my father had done that to me. There's always a justification. That's the criminal mind. Never taking responsibility, ever, to the very end. That's what we're talking about here. Okay. Here we go. Dr. Fisher found Adulterous women reported they were happy or very happy in ever more egalitarian marriages. Okay, egalitarian. They're talking about cheating back there. Okay. Let's see here. That's okay. Here's the important part. Okay, they are right now. We have the first generation of women who are raised to believe that they can and should have it all. What does that mean? It means they're less likely to fake it in the bedroom. Okay, now that's interesting. Women feel less pressure nowadays to have low quality sex. Okay, says Dr. Kerner. My female clients are like, why would I ever fake an orgasm? Because that was the 80s. Harry Met Sally. Search Harry Met Sally orgasm if you're younger, you haven't seen it. Women would fake orgasms back then. The reason why they would fake them is because women were still having sex with their husbands. Okay? Now again, let's look at this. Let's read the tea leaves. Let's read, between the lines, read the tea leaves here. Women feel less pressure, so don't feel pressure to have low quality sex. Now, low quality sex. What is low quality sex? Faking orgasms. What that means is she didn't have an orgasm. So women are less likely to have sex unless they know they're going to have an orgasm, right? So what that means is sex in marriage. So women feel like, hey, why should I have sex? I don't feel like doing it anymore. We just had a kid. I don't want to do it. I don't feel any need. That's what they're saying. And they're given the green light here. And the female client said, why would I ever fake an orgasm? That's so 80s, right? It's because what that means is you're having sex with your husband. So basically, what they're saying in this article, without saying it, but it's very clear, is that women feel like, unless, a couple times, women get bored quickly, sexually, very quickly. Max 6 months, max. And then after that, it's like doing it for the guy, basically. But nope, no more sex. Nope, don't need to. It's called low quality sex. Now, men are like cows that need to be milked. They need sex. But there's no low quality sex for her. How about for him? No concern. No concern. We've already seen there's no concern for the children's welfare. And there's no concern for the husband. Right? She wanted it all for herself. The best friend, the domestic partner, the professional equal, the lover. She got 2 out of 4 when 8 years and 1 baby into marriage, she began sleeping with a coworker, a man who was a professional equal than her low-earning husband. Okay, all right. So a healthy attraction, blah, 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 blah. Now, what they're not saying is if she married that guy, she would be tired of him too, right? We already know that. Okay. Women are suffering less these days. That's true. That's very important to know. That's very important for men to know. Really understand that. Is that women will not suffer through any sex with you that they don't want. Okay? But you also know that most sex is not hot. Just like most food is not that great. But women no longer, nope. That destroys any reason to get married for men. Because, they're saying right here, women do not care about your sexual needs. They don't care about the children. And they could give a flying fuck if you catch them cheating. We're going to find that out later in this article, right? Now, let's think about how men look at this stuff. Okay, suffering through it less. Suffering through it. Think about that. Do you want, okay, let's just ask you. Do you want a woman who's suffering through it? I don't want that. So I'm on board with this woman. I do not want some large individual who is suffering through it with me. Like 70% of people are obese in America. I don't want some large woman who is suffering through it. I have no desire for that. And I think there's a lot of feeling in this article that there's enough blue pill guys out there that it's fine. That's really the feeling here. It's like no matter what we do, cheat, break up the family, don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. We're not even going to suffer anything. We're only going to do the sex we want to do. And let's face it, we'll do it with you for a few months, and then we'll start cheating on you, right? Because it's more exciting. Yeah. We're not going to suffer through it. Unless, she's waiting for a green card or some good reason, right? Then there's a need, right? Okay, so let's go in here. That's the man's job, suffering through it. Okay, all right. These days. Kara, PR executive in Texas, filed for divorce 3 months after her affair with her family pediatrician began. So, okay, now let's look at that. Kara's 33. She's a PR exec in Texas. She filed for divorce 3 months after her affair with the doctor began. Okay? Once her construction worker husband found out she was leaving for someone else, shit hit the fan. What does that mean? I don't think so. I think that's kind of dishonest, actually, because the whole point is a woman, literally doesn't care. That's what you have to understand here. Shit doesn't hit the fan when you don't care. Shit hits the fan when you care. When you don't care, then, okay, yeah, things can get a little rocky and unsure for a while, but you don't care. You know what I mean? It's like if you lose your whatever internet provider, you have to buy a new car. It's like whatever. It's an inconvenience. Okay, so I guess so. But another thing is she cheated on him with a doctor. Okay, and then she filed for divorce. So that's the thing. Men never filed for divorce. So women are saying it's equal. It's not equal at all. Men didn't file for divorce back in the 70s. Hell no. That was never equal. Men never filed for divorce. Women filed for divorce. So not only do now, women have always filed for divorce, but 90% of women with a 4-year degree file for divorce when divorce happens in a marriage. 90. And the other 10%, ask any woman, and I've asked many, they'll say they forced their husband to file. Yeah. So at least 5%. So 95. If you have any doubt about that, ask women. If they got divorced, their husband filed, they'd say, did you make it uncomfortable for him? So you kind of had to, she'll be like, well, yeah, I kind of, she didn't want to be the one. That's for the ones who don't want to look bad, right? So they're just going to cheat, let him know. You know what I mean? So the guy has no choice. Once a guy realizes his wife is the town bicycle and she doesn't care, or she's escorting and she just literally does not care, at some point he will file, right? But it's not the first thing a guy does. And that's regardless of educational status. Men just don't file for divorce, basically. Okay, so cheat and divorce and what happened. So men are often portrayed, and we often read about, toxic masculinity. Okay, so let's look at this here. Did he cheat? No. He's a construction worker, right? So he's like this kind of caveman, right? So, he's going to be violent, and she's going to be in the hospital, right? That kind of thing, right? In a fight. That's the kind of way men are portrayed. But what actually happened? She cheated on him. Okay? They got a kid, small kid, young kid. She cheated on him with their doctor. Okay, great. What did he do? He begged her to try to work it out. Okay, he texted all the parents on his son's hockey team, which he coached, to explain why he hadn't shown up. Sorry, I didn't make it to practice, he wrote. My wife's sleeping with our kid's doctor. So basically what we see here is that he acted very differently. Let's read more. When a woman strays, there's anger, but there's also much more interest from the man than ever to collaborate and to talk and work it out. So basically, not only are men not toxic, but they're basically unselfish and forgiving to the core, is what she's saying. And that's a funny thing. That's a funny thing that she's saying here. I'm not saying that. She's saying that. When a woman strays, there's anger. Yes, but there's also much more interest from the man than ever to collaborate and talk and work it out. So what she's saying here is that it's a kick in the ass to the guy. So he gets his shit in order. So it's almost like a training for this guy. That's what she's saying. Such was the case with a guy friend whose wife had been having an affair with some douchebag down the street. Okay, so he said that, right? Well, he makes lunches, cleans the kids' bunny cages, waiting for the phase to pass and their marriage to carry on. So again, we have another toxic masculine guy who is forgiving his wife, making lunches, cleaning bird cages, bunny cages, and waiting for the phase to pass. So he was not violent. He was very understanding. He even said, like, basically phase to pass means go ahead and cheat and eventually she'll get bored of him. Is that the way guys are portrayed? It's interesting. She's letting the cat out of the bag. And that's why this article is so great. She's telling the truth here. Men are very forgiving and loving. Yeah. And like, they don't even cheat. And like, it's fucking crazy, right? The cheating, I'm going to go, that's another video, because those are skewed by the men that are top earners and have always had many women. The average guy, no fucking way. No fucking way. The average guy is like she's talking about here. Loving, forgiving, understanding, patient. Okay. Randy, a 39-year-old father of 4. Okay. So another guy, right? Is he toxic? He's a father of 4. He decided to stay with his wife of 17 years. Okay. So 17 years, they started when they're 22. After she slept with her business development coach. So what did he say? What did this caveman, toxic, Idaho, he'd be portrayed as some kind of a hick, a secret, he would be portrayed as some kind of secret Trump supporter out there in the countryside, But what did he actually do? She slept with her business development coach. Now they've been together, childhood sweethearts, 22. He has stayed with her for 17 years and been faithful. This guy is a saint. Okay, 4 kids. He's done everything asked of him. What did he say? So even when she's cheating, I'm in it for the long haul. Okay, till we're old and gray and sitting on the front porch. Now, of course, and also her lover is banging her against the car or whatever, It's the biggest thing in any marriage to have that trust violated. But I'm not perfect either. And I know she wants to stay with me. Now, I don't know. Maybe this guy cheated. That would be interesting. But I would say no. The reason why is because he says, I'm not perfect. If he said, this guy seems very fucking understanding. If he said, look, I cheated too, I would guess what he means is he's not perfect. He talked to a woman. He got somebody's phone number. You know what I mean? There's so many shades of gray. But again, this article, they don't care about that. If this was a honest article with trying to give a fair, balanced, viewpoint, she'd say, well, what happened? Like, come on. What does that mean? Not perfect. Like, did you cheat? And he's like, well, no, but emotionally, that kind of thing, right? But that's very different than cheating in the open and him waiting for the thing to pass, right? Okay. She's seen, here's a therapist. Talia Wagner says, significant rise of couples who come in following a wife's affair. And it's usually the man. Okay, so here we have an expert, a marriage and family therapist. She's seen a rise in couples. It's usually the man who wants to try to keep the marriage intact. That is so interesting. So now, while men are being portrayed very dishonestly, everything we're seeing here is men being understanding, not any of the bad things they call us. I don't even want to use the words. We see loving, patient, kind, caring, forgiving men. That's what we got today. That's probably what you are. And yet we're being portrayed in this evil light. It's so crazy. You Do not let that stick on you. It's the biggest lie. It is such a lie. It is such a lie. I'm a loving man. And you can't let that get into your mind because they, at some level, they're trying to ruin you. They're lying about you and trying to ruin you. You got to remember who you are when that happens. Don't let any of this get into your brain. This brainwashing that you're some kind of terrible person. Because we're seeing right here is usually the man who wants to keep the marriage intact. And that's been my experience too. Every time there's been couples counseling and any of my friends, it's always the guy trying to work it out. Always trying to make it work. He's going to counseling because he's like, my wife is, blah, blah, blah. It's so crazy. And women are the ones. That's what she's saying here. She's actually bragging about it. So women no longer give a shit. That is so interesting. But it's never said directly. Men are loving, caring, supportive of marriage, supportive of children, understanding, and patient. And women are cheating, don't care, don't even care about going into counseling because they don't want to work it out. It's the men wanting to work it out. Now you could say they're blue pill and all that, but what I'm saying is like, regardless, where does it come from? It comes from a loving side of the man. It's like, hey, the children, like it comes from that. I'm not saying it's necessarily always the right thing, but it certainly doesn't come from a bad place. It might come from a naive place, right? That she's going to change or she feels guilty. But as you can see here, not only does she not feel guilty, your wife will cheat on you and feel justified and be cheered on by women like this. For most men, this is the Journal of Health and Social Behavior Study, are romantic partners with primary sources of intimacy. For most men, romantic partners are primary sources of intimacy, whereas women, friends, and family members fill the roles. So basically what they're saying here is that men are putting themselves in a box, and they're putting themselves in a bad situation. They're seeing their wife as the only person they can talk to, as their primary, like counselor, sharer, and this and that. But not only do women not care if the kids go to jail, get pregnant, get drug addicted, get murdered, they don't care about that. They don't care about the man, his needs. But they don't even need him for any kind of discussion. Like she doesn't need him for sex, obviously. And what they're saying is the final nail in the coffin for guys is she doesn't need you for intimacy. She's got plenty of friends. So you're not hurting her by not getting married. She's going to be fine. A woman will have tons of social group, friends you can talk to. There's no need. All right, we're getting towards the end. And they're talking about how it was surprising. The guy was so loving and forgiving. Wasn't he humiliated? But he behaved the way a woman would be expected to. Telling everybody how horrible I was. That didn't mean he didn't try to work it out. So, of course, or that she felt especially guilty. She didn't feel guilty. So basically, he was trying. What she's saying here is what happens at the breakup is he was cheated on. Okay. She didn't care. She felt justified. She gave him nothing. Okay. She knows. Women know that men are humiliated. Of course he's humiliated. But he sucked it up, as guys do. And he told everybody, right? That was his only thing he did, is tell everybody. And he thought, well, this is going to get her. Because the man misunderstood. He didn't know he was dealing with the criminal mind. This is exactly what charities always do. And what the judges always do, is they believe that everybody has guilt. So they're telling the guy, as they're sentencing him for the 10th time, they're like, do you understand how she felt when you did that? And how he felt and how that affected him. And the guy's like crying and he's like, Your Honor, if I could take it back, I would just take it back, And they're like, okay, well, just clean your act up, don't do that again. Remember the face. And the guy's like, say, Your Honor, I'll do anything, And then as soon as he gets out there, he's like, boys, beat the rap. I beat the fucking rap, you know. And it's because the guy doesn't care. You know, he's not the worst guy in the world, but he just doesn't care. He's just acting like he cares. He doesn't feel guilty. There's no guilt. There's no guilt. And women have no guilt. Not only is there no guilt, it's worse than that. Justified, like she said. So that's really what's going on. And the thing is, and she started with beta male, tags beta male. It's so important to know that. Because not only do women not care, will cheat, will divorce you, don't care about the children's future. Actions speak louder than words with the children, okay? You can say you care. It's like, oh, I care. And then you run over, the poor kid. Or you don't give food. It's like your actions. You know that statistically children are going to be worse off. Your children are going to have a less chance to survive and succeed in this world. But, hey, you need some sex from somebody else. Now, very easy. Very, very easy, right? I should go to the end. Women are more forgiven. So not only are men not toxic, but they're forgiven. And she's admitting it. Men are not. Men are, as she said, the consequences are they're very heavy for men. Lose the house, lose the kids, lose the money. Suicide, very common. Nope. Forgiveness, understanding, love, and still doesn't care. In fact, gloating. This article is gloating on the fact that men, she put in the tag beta male. And that's exactly what she means. She sees men, because they put up with this, as being beta males. She does not see, and I would guess she'd turn around and say they're toxic, while not admitting men are understanding, sympathetic, patient, loving, concerned, diligent. She's admitting all this in the article. And women are the opposite. And I think it goes back to the amount of money, where women just don't need marriage. It's just a big hassle. But let's go to the end. Women are more forgiving because it's a struggle of being a certain type of powerful woman. A powerful woman breaks this family up. She says, you were a different person when you began the relationship, and he's just not. Okay, so again, this is another justification. Basically, not only is it good to cheat, not to have empathy, not caring about the children is good. Breaking up families is great, right? Of course, family court, taking the money and the children. Everybody knows that. You don't even have to talk about that. Such cap. But you were a different person, and this is the standard we've changed. So you're justified. You were a different person. You are becoming the struggle to be a powerful woman. So this is the justification. And this is the mindset. This is the criminal mindset these days. Now, what should you do as a guy? What should you do? Like, how do you respond to this? It's so difficult because a lot of guys, they get very upset and it's like, it's easy to get where your mind is like your mind gets stuck in a circle of thinking, just keeps going the same and same. You want to get out of that thinking, and you want to realize that well, one, this picture, this guy's cheating. She's cheating, right, with this guy, right? So he's the postman. So she's cheating with him, right? So you can be that guy. You can be free, boning all the chicks you want. You don't have to be giving them money. And you don't have to be with somebody who doesn't need you. It's very clear. Not only is there no need, there's no empathy. The wedding is a big deal. They want the wedding, but they don't want the marriage. They don't want sex with you. They don't want you long term. That's what's changed. What I think is beautiful in old relationships, and it's the same kind of thing with dogs and kids. There is a beautiful aspect of dependency. I was dependent on my mother and my father. And there was something special about that time in my life, There is. And you realize, that sometimes you're just at people's mercy. And I think what that teaches you is that most people are good. But when people are not good, you need to see it clearly. You need to see it clearly because you lose all hope if you start to go off in dreamland. You have to understand this is the final nail in the coffin right here. The truth is in this article. I love this girl for saying this. Alyssa, thank you. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because there's so much for men here. I don't think people predict how the world will change when men finally figure this out. Is that it's just, it's everything I've said. Men are loving. So once you're on your own, dude, you have empathy, you have love, you have a good job, you have money, you can work, you can go overseas, you can travel, you can be free of evil people. And that's so valuable because when you are, the reason why there's this kind of keeping the relationship going, it's because even though you don't care at all, the women don't care at all about the marriage, and just look at the guy as a worm, there's some benefit, social benefit. That's why they're staying. There's a little social benefit from being a wife, right? And also, as I said in Marriage is Doomed, there's an excitement. And you can see it in this picture. Because you can cheat with excitement. As soon as you get divorced, it's no longer exciting to fuck the same guys. It's very exciting. So it's even worse than what she's saying because the picture is what's saying. The picture says, stay married, keep the guy on the string, call him a beta male, have no respect for him, cheat on him, be a powerful woman. And when you finally do leave him, destroyed, okay, call him a beta male and realize that you're a powerful woman and be justified. Justified. Not a shred, of course, of any kind of guilt. Be justified. And it's okay. And I think a lot of people, they don't understand, like, why are guys changing? Why are guys going MGTOW? Why are guys not into this marriage thing? Watch this episode again. This has nothing to do with men. Men aren't doing this. This is women doing it. Women are doing this. Things will change if women change, but I myself don't have any hope in women changing. And I mean that in a good way. In general, don't have hope that other people will do things. That is a very misplaced hope. The hope that you have is that you are going to reach down in yourself and you're going to make it and you're going to succeed. You. The hope comes from the belief that you are going to do something. There's no such thing as hope in another. That is misplaced. The hope is that that's why there's hope in this world, is because you can change. You can totally avoid this type of individual and terrible situation, as you can see. It's just heart-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching what she's talking about. Basically, she's talking about suicide. That's what we're talking about here. Men are committing suicide over this. And men commit suicide, what is it? How many times more than women? It's like huge. And often during child custody case, because that's the end. That's when the guy has no more value and spitting him out the other end. And the guy doesn't know what hit him. He has no hope. He doesn't know what to believe anymore. He doesn't have his children. He doesn't have his house. He's often, false allegations. All kinds of evil stuff happens in the course of the final destruction of the man. And the guy is destroyed. It's very dangerous out there, guys. It's very dangerous. And you can avoid the whole thing. You can avoid the whole thing. I have. I stayed single my whole life. Dude, I slept with 700 women. I mean, how many times did I have a chance to get fucking married? Millions. Not really, but you know what I mean? Like a lot, right? But I realized, I was like, marriage just isn't a good deal these days. Even if the girl's pretty and cute and young, it's like still, it's like you just don't have what you used to have, The women don't need you. And I don't mean that things should change. I just mean you shouldn't do it because they're not there anymore. It's like buying a car with no engine. Like you wouldn't buy it. Don't buy a car with no engine, right? Don't buy a vacation with no ticket. You're on vacation, but you're just sitting in your house waiting to go. You go to the airport, they're like, oh, you don't have a reservation. Oh, it's like, don't do that. Don't buy a hamburger with no meat. Don't watch a movie that's just fuzz on the screen. Like, don't do that. But, and here's the thing, guys, the final thing, is that life is fucking awesome as a single guy these days. It is so good. It is so good. And it won't seem like it to you because, especially if you're in a small town or you don't have a lot of different kinds of friends, come to a summit, start learning new things, start getting your shit together, and realize how good. Life's never been better for single guys. It is good, dude. It is good. The next summit, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how to inoculate yourself against Western women, how to not put yourself in this situation by putting yourself in awesome situations where you're going to be jumping out of bed. Definitely for a while. You're going to be like, there's going to be a hop in your step and a smile on your face. And you will have nothing to worry about. And you will never, ever regret not being with a person who doesn't care about you, who looks down on you, who doesn't love you, who doesn't give you affection, who doesn't care about your needs. You will never think, wow, I'm going to give up this totally awesome life where I'm hanging out with friends, fucking living abroad, I'm having so much fun, I'm hang out with my buddies all day, go hike, go climb, start a business, whatever, doing cool shit, going to temples, going to fucking killer beaches and seeing new things and getting offers, and just life is a cornucopia of new food and new excitement. And you know what? Most women are not going to see it because they stay home. Most women stay home. Men are adventurers. Men explore. Start exploring. Start exploring and getting out there. Not in a way where it's going to ruin your financial situation. You got to do it smart. That's what I want to talk about. How to live very cheaply in very exciting places and experience the most that you can possibly experience. So your life will finally be exciting and not a fucking bore. And certainly not with mean people that are playing these kind of games. You can be free, my friend, from all this stuff. It doesn't affect you. Doesn't. If you're married, you can be free. If you're single, you can be free. But you got to learn some stuff. You got to learn. There's a lot to learn, actually. It doesn't happen naturally. Your mind has 1,000. Imagine a filing cabinet with like hundreds of thousands. As far as you can look down the hallways, just little filing cabinets, little drawers. Each one, you got to reevaluate. You need a new way of thinking about it. That's what I want to do. I want to help you to overcome all the obstacles to having a killer life like I've had. If that sounds good, does that sound good? Let me know. All right, guys. I hope this has been interesting, and I think it has been. I'm very grateful for articles like this because they tell the truth, and the truth will set you free, baby. It will set you so free. All right, guys. Ronin Man signing off.